He's described as a super-savvy businessman, an ardent activist, and a global spiritual warrior. From a young age, Shirish Soni had a strong sense of justice, knowing deeply in his heart that all beings are equal in the eyes of the divine. His strong personality, outstanding negotiating skills, and a deep love of South Africa made him an ideal candidate for a career in politics. Today, he proudly represents our rainbow nation as the South African ambassador to Kazakhstan, as well as the neighboring former USSR countries of Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Based in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, Ambassador Soni and his wife Rueda share Nelson Mandela's message of peaceful celebration of our vibrantly rich traditions with the residents of this beautiful city. When he first arrived in Astana 3 years ago, the people there knew very little about South Africa.
If you ask most people in Kazakhstan, do you know South Africa? They may say, I don't. But if you say, do you know Mandela? Yes, they do. The second big brand that we have is FIFA. If we had to say, do you know FIFA 2010? Oh yes, we know that your country hosted. So part of our job is to market South Africa and bring this awareness of our country to the people of Kazakhstan.
Since he first presented his credentials to President Nursultan Nazarbayev in 2012, Ambassador Soni has discovered that there are strong similarities between Kazakhstan and South Africa in a number of ways.
The Kazakh community is like the South African community. We have many cultures, many tribes. The Kazakhs have many cultures, many tribes. We have many nationalities who are third, fourth generation South African. The Kazakhs have a similar situation. So this concept of social cohesion, bringing people together to talk about the commonality, talk about how we belong to each other. I am because you are, our spirit of Ubuntu, is also very prevalent in Kazakhstan.
As in South Africa, there is also a strong sense of religious freedom, which is guaranteed by Kazakhstan's constitution. It states that human rights and freedoms shall not be restricted in any way and prohibits discrimination on a religious basis. Everyone has the right to determine and indicate or not to indicate his or her ethnicity, party, and religious affiliation.
Now, if you look at our tolerance to religion, in South Africa, in all our events, you will find that a Christian, a Muslim, a Jewish person, a Hindu is invited to say a prayer before we officiate events. So we have tolerance, respect, and we actually practice each other's religion. The same happens here. There is an authority that manages religion and regulates it. I have been to the Catholic Church, I've been to the Orthodox Christian Church, I've been to the synagogue, I've been to the mosque. So all religions are allowed to practice freely.
Shirish and his wife Rueda have become popular guests at high-level functions in Kazakhstan. But there is a side to this dynamic couple that very few Kazakhs know about. They're both deeply spiritual and seamlessly blend an active political life with inner calm and centeredness, which they derive from an ancient Vedic breathing technique called Sudarshan Kriya.
You have 7 layers of existence. You have body, breath, mind, memory, intellect, ego, and the self. So you use the breath to manage mind, intellect, ego, and you go inward, taking in breaths in a particular fashion, breathing in and out, so that you relax the body.
So Psu means proper, Darshan means vision, and Kriya means purifying actions. This deals with the breath. It's rhythms of breathing that helps you go beyond the self. See, Day to day, we are only using 30% of our lung capacity. This technique, we can use almost 90% of lung capacity. So breathing in purifies and energizes the body, and breathing out purifies the body. So using the cycles of breathing actually flushes out toxins from your system.
The Sudarshan Kriya was refined by His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, founder of the Art of Living Foundation, and it is now a vital part of the organization's life-enhancing courses. The Art of Living has become a popular spiritual organization globally, with regional centers in more than 150 countries, and has its headquarters in Bangalore, India. Thousands of devotees travel to the beautiful ashram every year to participate in the personal development and trauma relief courses, or simply to enjoy darshan, or being in the presence of their beloved guru. In 1997, Rueda became a full-time volunteer and teacher of the Art of Living Foundation, and is now the only advanced or silence course teacher from Africa. She has dedicated her creative talents to advancing the work of His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Rueda is also a highly acclaimed fashion designer, entrepreneur and meditation teacher. She regularly hosts fashion shows to promote unity and harmony, and has recently launched a music CD called African Beat Bhajans.
When I came to the Art of Living, there was a different kind of music introduced to me. It was the music that takes you inward. All the time when I was singing, previously I was singing outward. But here it was a different way of being. When you chant and when you sing these bhajans, you actually take yourself inward and you connect with your inner self. And with that connection, so much of gratitude wells up.
Shirish and Rueda are a dynamic duo that have traveled the globe spreading messages of peace, reconciliation and meditation. Their marriage itself is a testament to peaceful coexistence. Shirish is Hindu, while Rueda is of the Islamic faith. Yet they have always practiced in private what they preach in public about religious freedoms and tolerance.
My relationship with Rueda, our family started to grow closer. So in many ways, I had to go to mosque, I had to practice whatever was being done at mosque with my in-laws. Rueda joined me in the temple. So we transcended this issue of being Muslim, this issue of being Hindu.
You know, I always say to people, if you have fears about embracing somebody else's religion or customs, and if you have this fear that you'll be less of a Muslim, I tell you what, I always say that your faith is not strong enough. So if your faith is strong, no one can change you and nothing can change you.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah.
Shirish was one of the very first devotees of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar in South Africa. This was a major turning point in his life.
When I joined Art of Living, I started to realize that religion is just like a banana. The skin is different. So we have different symbols. The Hindus have an Om sign, others, Muslims have a moon sign, and so forth. We have different ways and practices of practicing our religion. But if we start to experience the essence of the knowledge, it is all the same. So if you read the Bhagavad Gita, or if you read the Bible, or if you read the Quran, all the values by all the spiritual masters that have been brought to this universe is the same.
Gauri Priyaya Nantakaya Jyotirmayaya
Having grown up in Africa, Shirish learnt about African spirituality. His ancestors came from the Indian subcontinent, and so he was taught about Indian spirituality too. Today, as the South African ambassador to Kazakhstan, he is learning about a different culture altogether. But, he says, the whole world is his family, and that wherever he finds himself, all wise people speak the same language of love, peace, and religious tolerance.
All the practices in Art of Living helps you. If you're a Muslim, you become a better Muslim. If you're a Hindu, you become a better Hindu.
I honor all religions, not only Hinduism, but Christianity also. And it makes our life so beautiful because we have so many celebrations. We celebrate Christmas, Diwali, Eid. I fast for Ramadan, then I fast for Navaratri.
Islam is the religion of about 70% of the population of Kazakhstan, with Orthodox Christianity practiced by 26%. After decades of religious suppression by the Soviet Union, the coming of independence witnessed a surge in expression of ethnic identity, partly through religion. The free practice of religious beliefs and the establishment of full freedom of religion led to an increase in religious activity. Hundreds of mosques, churches, and other religious structures were built in the span of a few years. Shirish has been inspired by the many places of worship in this city and suggested we visit the beautiful Uspensky Russian Orthodox Cathedral. The wall and ceiling murals are breathtaking, depicting Bible scenes so dear to the hearts of many Christians. The Uspensky Cathedral, also known as the Cathedral of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, was officially consecrated in 2010 and was the first Christian church to be built in Asia in many decades. Not far from the cathedral lies one of Ruweda's favorite places, the Hazrat Sultan Mosque. The main dome is surrounded by 8 small ones, and at the mosque corners there are 4 77-meter-high minarets. This is the largest mosque in Central Asia and was inaugurated in 2012 after 3 years of construction. The mosque was named in honor of one of the Sufi sheikhs, Khoja Ahmed Yasawi, who was a poet, philosopher and Muslim saint, well known in the whole of Central Asia. Ruweda loves to spend time here, quietly immersing herself in the spiritual energy that is so strongly felt by regular worshippers and first-time visitors like us. She shares her eclectic views on religion and spirituality.
Being a Muslim is who I am. Islam, to me, is my culture. I can never lose my culture. It is who I am. I was born with it. When the Kalima Shahadat was chanted in my ears, how can one forget that? It will stay with you for a lifetime.
Ruweda is a very good Muslim. So, in Kazakhstan, the Ramadan period starts very early and the day ends very late. So you fast for almost 20 hours. But in keeping with the discipline, she would fast in Kazakhstan. Similarly, I keep to my tradition, I keep to my practices. But at the same time, we both know that the real essence is in the values. So being more spiritual helps us to connect to each other, most certainly. But we've never ever in these 35 years had to have any discussion about which religion is more important, which religion is less important. we both believe that all gods, all masters, descended on this planet at a particular time in a particular place to bring a particular knowledge to a particular group of people who will spread it to everyone in the world. So we accept all the teachings. We are open and the universe is open to us.
Aside from their deep spiritual beliefs, both Shirish and Rueda are passionate about all things South African. As such, they're ideally suited for their ambassadorial posting, which gives them ample opportunity to promote the beauty and diversity of our country to the far reaches of the globe.
Now, one of the things we did was to ask the city of Astana to dedicate a row of trees to Nelson Mandela. And we are very grateful to the mayor and the administration of the city of Astana. They dedicated this row of trees right outside the largest positioning of a Kazakh flag. So, and it's also very good for us because we have full vision of this, full view from our embassy, from most of the rooms of our embassy. And in 2012, we invited Ahmad Kathrada and Barbara Hogan to visit Kazakhstan. When they launched this program, we also inaugurated the planting of this row of trees. Since then, trees have been dedicated in this park to various heads of states. And that's a very interesting sight. The message we intend to get through with this is that we are spreading the wisdom, the values of Nelson Mandela, sustainable leadership, leadership that is full of integrity, and many young Kazakhs are now reading about Nelson Mandela. They are posting his quotations on the social media and participating in all the events that the embassy has to promote Mandela Day. So this has been good for us.
Another project aimed at increasing the awareness and understanding of South Africa in Kazakhstan was the donation of 450 books by the South African Embassy to the University of Kazakhstan in Astana. Among them were books on law, history, foreign policy and social studies, and many biographies and autobiographies of world leaders. In particular, the South African Embassy donated a number of books about Nelson Mandela's life.
The most recent, actually, the portrait of a leader, Nelson Mandela.
The books are in different languages to support academics and students in language studies, and some include topics on religion, yoga, and meditation.
That's his childhood as a young boy.
Since ancient times, Kazakhstan has been the place of meeting and dialogue between religions and cultures of the East and West. There are about 130 ethnic groups belonging to more than 40 different religions and denominations who coexist in perfect harmony. Kazakhstan's own journey from struggle to liberation turned out to be vital at the global level, which is why Astana regularly hosts a meeting and dialogue of religious leaders of the world community. The spectacular building, the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation, was specially built to host the Congress of Leaders of the World and Traditional Religions, which is held every 3 years in Astana. Monuments of peace and healing remind a nation of the need for peaceful coexistence with all people and to build our common humanity. This resonates with the Sonis as they explore this unusual and extraordinary city. Architecture symbolizes the aspiration of a people, and in Astana, the use of space, light, and the construction of the buildings takes on a far deeper meaning. In some sense, this construction embodies independent Kazakhstan that in a friendly manner embraces all people of all nations and practicing different religions. The Congress convincingly demonstrates the relevance and necessity of fulfilling the idea of cooperation and unity of representatives of different religions for the sake of a peaceful and worthy life of the people of the entire planet. The Palace of Peace and Reconciliation is just one of many beautiful and unusual structures in this architecturally fascinating city.
I have a spiritual guru. His name is Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He's the head of the Art of Living Foundation. And I invited him to Kazakhstan. And one of the things he noticed, and one of the things that impressed him the most, and he keeps repeating and he keeps on talking about this, is the architecture of Kazakhstan. And he has repeatedly said that all students of architect, all students in working with construction, working with town planning, city planning, and so forth, should visit Kazakhstan as a case study. What is very visible when you walk through Astana is that this city has been designed as a city before starting to put up buildings. And each of the buildings, each of the shopping centers is built very uniquely. Each of the music halls, universities, the best of the world's architects have been engaged. And it's very interesting to take a drive across and look at all this modern architecture. You almost feel you're in a city that is not part of this world. So it's a great experience. And of course, I keep repeating what my spiritual master has said. I was quite taken that he noticed so much in the buildings. And repeatedly, we have huge building construction projects in Bangalore, in the ashram. And he has said to the people who do the planning of our building projects that they should visit Astana for a case study.
One of the most prominent structures in the city is Bayterek Tower. The shape of the 105-meter tall tower represents the golden egg of the Samruk bird, nestling at the top of a poplar tree, symbolizing the rebirth of the Kazakh nation. This comes from a folk tale of the Tree of Life, a central symbol in Turkic mythology. The top level of the tower features a gilded handprint of the right hand of Nursultan Nazarbayev, the first president of the Independent Republic of Kazakhstan. It expresses the bond between the state and its citizens, as well as peace, friendship, and harmony. Visitors are invited to place their hand in the imprint and make a wish. Alongside the handprint, and also oriented in the direction of the presidential palace, is a wooden sculpture of a globe and 16 radiating segments commemorating the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions. Astana is a planned city like Canberra in Australia, Washington DC in the United States, and Brasilia in Brazil. As the seat of the government of Kazakhstan, Astana is the site of Parliament House, the Supreme Court, the Presidential Palace, and numerous government departments and agencies. We were honored to have the opportunity to meet with the first deputy chairman of the ruling Nur-Otan party, Mr. Baybek.
Біз Нұр-Отан партиясына жақын арада қабылдаған саяси доктринамызда осы құндылықтар бойынша айттық. Ол негізгі адам оның құқықтары мен бостандығы. Ешқай адамды өзінің дініне, біліміне, әлеуметтік статусына, оның тіліне қарамастан кемсітпей бәр халыққа, адамдарға жағдай жасау. Ал енді басқа діндерге келген болсақ, біз негізгі партиямыздың ойымыз, доктринамыз бойынша негізгі әрбір діннің ішінде діндер адамдарды тек қана жақсылыққа шақырады. Ол ең бастысы басқа адамдармен жақсы болу, басқа адамдарды түсіну, жалпы рухани байлық осы діндерде жатыр. Сол себептен біз Нұр Отан партиясы ешкімді бөлмей, бәр адамдардың жалпы ойларын, пікірлерін біліп, оны билікке жеткеніміз қажет. Біздің негізгі ойымыз елде жалпы бірлікті, тұрақтылықты қамтамасыз ету үшін үлкен диалог керек. Адамдар бір-бірімен сөйлесу керек. Қазірде мына татулық, келісім, бірлік, осы мәселелер ең маңызды болып отыр. Осының бәрі болса, біз болашақта да үлкен жетістіктерге жетеміз деп ойлаймын.
The day begins early in the Soni household. After rising before dawn to do his daily meditation, Shirish heads for the kitchen to perform what he says is one of the most important tasks of his day.
Every morning, I make Rueda a cup of tea. And when I take this tea to her, by the way, I believe every man should do that. And I hope we start in South Africa with every man really making his spouse a cup of tea. So you should wake your spouse up, good morning, I love you, here's a cup of tea. That's the first thing she should listen to and see when she wakes up in the morning. Jai Gurudev.
Together they plan their day and the weeks ahead. The days are long for this dedicated ambassador and his equally hard-working wife. Shirish will often have early breakfast meetings, TV or radio interviews, and long discussions with local businessmen interested in trading with South Africa.
Show you the picture.
2 or 3 nights a week, they attend functions or entertain VIP guests in their own home. And Rueda is actively involved with a number of organizations, including the Art of Living programs which are just getting started in Kazakhstan.
No. So we leave the residence at 2. Okay. Maybe a little earlier.
Yes, I think so.
After a quick breakfast, Shirish prepares to leave for the office. This has become a daily ritual in the Soni home. The home staff and Rueda all gather around to make sure he is perfectly dressed and fully prepared for his busy day. Checks in with his secretary on the way to his first appointment. He's on his way to the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation to meet the head of the Center of Inter-Ethnic and Interconfessional Studies, an organization set up by the president to study and advise on inter-ethnic relations in Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much for seeing me, and I really appreciate you giving me your time. I would like to present you with the South African and Kazakh friendship pin. That's our 2 flags. Thank you very much.
While Shirish rushes around the city, performing his ambassadorial duties, Rueda starts her day a little more gently.
To start a day with yoga, it's like food for my soul. Yeah? Yoga stills my mind and it gives me focus for the rest of the day. When I do yoga in the morning, it gives me that energy to go through the fast-paced days that we encounter, especially being an ambassador spouse. There's so many things that we encounter throughout the day, and we just have to be in the moment and also stand on our feet. So I use yoga in the morning to give me energy. When we are traveling and I'm not able to do yoga, I'll do it in the evening and I'll use it as damage control. But for me, yoga is the nectar to my being.
Ambassador Sony has become a popular figure in Kazakhstan and is often invited to give talks at various organizations. Today, he's speaking at a Toastmasters meeting in downtown Astana.
What Nelson Mandela left us with as a legacy, and we will continue with this for many, many generations. The United Nations has declared his birthday, 18th July, Mandela Day. And during this month of July, we encourage people around the world to do 67 minutes of service. These 67 minutes represent the 67 years that Mandela spent to serve people. Most interesting in terms of culture, we have what is known as the Cape Town Jazz Festival. We can rock you like you'd never believe. And this jazz festival is held annually in the city of Cape Town before Easter. So if ever you get a chance, visit our country during the jazz festival, you will really, really experience our culture in promoting freedom and expression through music, African dancing, African dressing, African drumming. So my wife teaches me how to dress, I teach her how to drum, and she teaches me how to sing. So drumming, dancing, and dressing, African style, is what we do. Thank you very much.
After her morning sadhana, Rueda takes some time out to wander along the banks of the Ishim River. She reflects on their lives and times, which have not always been easy. In 2010, they survived a terrible attack in their home in South Africa. Rueda was severely beaten and traumatized and was not given long to live. When her guru, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, heard about her condition, he immediately sent for her and she spent many months at the ashram in India. Thanks to his encouragement and the caring doctors at the Art of Living ashram, her strength gradually returned.
I am so grateful for this experience. On the whole, this robbery, if it wasn't for this robbery, I would not have received the gifts that I got in ashram. And this had made, firstly, me strong as a person, but as a couple, it has bounded us together that I don't think there's anything that can separate us. Even it was very hard to be away from the kids, but I didn't feel hardship because I was in such a controlled environment. And the space that I was in, there was no space or place for regrets or negativity or missing anyone. It was just me hanging on to life and swimming to stay on top.
Shirish too has had his fair share of hardship. At the age of 16, he became aware of the suffering of many of South Africa's people. While still a student, he joined the MJK, a unit of the then banned ANC Underground. He was arrested in 1985 and spent 7 months in solitary confinement, suffering unspeakable acts of torture.
Deep inside me, I knew that my life was not going to be an easy journey. I knew that I'm going to get very soaked into the ANC. I knew that I will always put the ANC before my family. I would always put the ANC before my business and before myself. Of course, when I reflect, it's a very painful thing to have done, but it is something that I did consciously.
Throughout these troubled times, though, he never lost sight of his roots and the deep spiritual values taught to him by his family.
I was reared in a home where spiritual practice was it was the thing we did every day. My maternal and paternal grandparents were very spiritual. Both my parents are very spiritual. So we went to temples, we prayed. It was a daily practice for us. And we were very lucky in that most of the spiritual masters from India, when they visited South Africa or Durban, visited our home.
What I have learned from Shirish in particular is my introduction into his family as a Hindu family. I have not known what Hinduism was before.
The Sonis regularly host dinner parties at their residence. Tonight, their guests include several dignitaries from the Astana Opera Company. For many of the guests, eating an Indian vegetarian meal is a whole new experience. For the Sonis, however, being vegetarian is a way of life.
Being vegetarian is one thing that from the very depth of my inner self, I felt I must maintain. So of course I grew up in a vegetarian home, but when we were growing up as teenagers, as young men, we went out to experience a lot of things. Many of my friends chose that they would eat meat, but I decided I will remain a pure vegetarian. Throughout my entire life, I've never touched anything that is non-vegetarian. And it's something that I made a conscious choice to do. Strangely, in prison, even in prison, I remained a vegetarian. And I would swap the portions of meat that was given to me for tea or bread and not have any meat. And today when I look back, it is something that I did and I managed to maintain. I'm sure I will continue with that. It's very, very important for people to, if they want a healthy body, healthy mind, to be vegetarian.
By the end of the meal, all the guests agreed that the food was delicious and congratulated Rueda on her cooking skills, just another of her many talents. Early the next morning, we travelled with Ambassador Sony to Almaty, a 2-hour flight south from Astana. Almaty is the largest city in Kazakhstan. Despite losing its status as the capital, Almaty remains the major commercial and cultural center of Kazakhstan, as well as its largest population center. An aerial tramway line connects downtown Almaty with a popular recreation area at the top of a mountain just to the southeast of the city. Here, Shirish meets with a businessman who is one of a group which will be traveling to South Africa later in the year to look at business opportunities. And what better place to introduce his new friend to the benefits of a guided meditation here in this spectacular spot overlooking the beautiful city of Almaty. The next day, we joined the ambassador and his guest for a ride up the cable car to Talgar Pass, 25 kilometers south of Almaty.
We look forward to hosting you in our country.
Thank you.
In winter, this is a popular destination for skiers, where the temperature drops to -7 degrees and snowfalls up to 1.5 meters thick are quite common between November and April. But we were here in August, a few months before the first snowfalls. It was already quite chilly here at the top of the ski lift at 3,200 meters above sea level, with cold air blowing off the glacier high above us. The mountains and valleys here are stunningly beautiful, and together with the wild flowers and bird life, the serenity and peace that a visitor will experience make this place well worth a visit any time of the year. Here we came across a prayer tree. Local people and Kazakh tourists tie pieces of cloth to the tree while silently praying for their wishes to come true. At the foot of the mountain, Ambassador Sony and his new friend stopped at a small country hotel to meet another local businessman who wanted to know more about South Africa's National Development Plan and how it could help his company's investment strategy.
The National Development Plan is a plan for South Africa up to 2030. What is very interesting about this plan is that it has a lot of higher values. The higher values that are placed by all religions. So, for example, caring, sharing, respect, belongingness, acceptance are all enshrined as the values that we as South Africans should work with to build and implement this plan. Now, of course, this narrative will keep on building. We will continue to say we have a good story to tell, but we start from the basis of belongingness, Ubuntu. I am because you are. Accepting, I accept you, you accept me, I feel accepted. And I think all religions will find the National Development Plan very interesting to read.
Kazakhstan opened an embassy in South Africa for the first time in December 2013. The country's first ambassador, Mr. Talgat Kaliev, has high praise for Ambassador Soni.
Our first meeting took place at the end of February of this year in Astana. He invited me for lunch, and my first impression was of Ambassador Soni. He's very, very nice person. I was very touched with his personal attitude to me. At his meeting, he offered me all assistance he can provide.
Shirish and Rueda Soni have adapted well to the sometimes harsh conditions in this beautiful country. They've made many new friends here and have been very successful in increasing the awareness of South Africa in Kazakhstan. Many of the young people they meet have shown great interest in traveling to our Rainbow Nation, to explore business opportunities and to enjoy the country's wonderful weather and hospitality.
Part of the brand that Rueda and I have built jointly is what we call DDD, African dressing, African dancing and African drumming. Well, you know, Rueda's been a designer, so she has a major flair for African dressing and sewing the most exquisite outfits. African drumming is something I enjoy doing, and African dancing again is something Rueda does. So when we came to Kazakhstan, we brought 108 African drums, 108 portraits of Nelson Mandela, and in this 2.5 years, we have been teaching Kazakh children to play the djembe drum in 4 different schools. Each year, we have brought a professional teacher from Cape Town to teach the children how to play drums. And it's something that's added to the social fabric, the cultural fabric of Kazakhstan. People love it, they enjoy it, and they participate very happily in it. It also gives us a great satisfaction. The Mandela portraits, these were hand-drawn paintings done by people in the streets of Cape Town. So one, we created local employment, but secondly, it's been a very good gift for us to give to friends that we meet in Kazakhstan. And of course, it promotes our biggest brand, which is Nelson Mandela.
Shirish Soni takes his role as South Africa's ambassador to Kazakhstan very seriously. He performs his ambassadorial duties with dedication and enthusiasm. Yet he is much more than just a political figure. Wherever he goes, he shares Nelson Mandela's message of peace and forgiveness. He encourages everyone to accept the United Nations challenge to engage in 67 minutes of service every year as a tribute to Nelson Mandela's 67 years of service to freedom and equality. Above all, though, Shirish is a spiritual ambassador, living his professional and personal life according to the teachings of his guru Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. As Art of Living teaches, Both he and Rueda have made it their life's work to spread these teachings, these basic human values, to all who they come in contact with.
I think every person on this universe should have a guru. I think every South African, through the deep pain, the legacy of apartheid, the dehumanization of our souls, should always have good spiritual practice. And that is what will help us when we reach 2030 to look back and say we have really built this rainbow nation where we all belong to each other, where we feel accepted by each other, and we feel accepted, and we feel that we belong to this universe, and we claim our rightful space in society and in the world.
His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar says, "If you are passionate, be passionate about the highest, the most wonderful, and the most beautiful. Be passionate about this entire creation, for everything is so beautiful." These words may well have been describing the beautiful country of Kazakhstan and its people. It could also be describing Shirish and Rueda, who continue to inspire politicians, businessmen, and ordinary folk with their passion for South Africa, their unshakable faith in the teachings of their guru, and their deep spiritual beliefs and practices. We left Kazakhstan in no doubt that Shirish Soni lives up to his well-earned reputation as South Africa's very own spiritual ambassador.